Hey, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to take a wild ride from these huge, room-sized machines of the past all the way to the invisible cloud that, basically runs everything now. So, let's jump right in.
I mean, just stop and think about it for a second. Your day, from the moment your alarm goes off to when you're streaming a show at night, how many computers do you actually interact with? Your phone, your car, the tools you use for work, all your entertainment. Yeah, technology isn't just in our world anymore. It pretty much is our world.
And this crazy reach, into every single part of our lives, we're talking robotic surgery, smart homes, all of it. This wasn't some accident. Nope, it's the payoff from like 100 years of nonstop innovation. And honestly, to get a handle on where we're headed, we've got to look back at how we even got here in the first place.
So, right. How in the world did a little device that fits in your pocket become way, way more powerful than the computers that literally put people on the moon? Well, the whole story, it doesn't start with some big explosion of genius. It actually starts with a really basic need, just to count things.
Yeah, you heard that right. The very first computers, they weren't for tweeting or binge-watching shows. They were created because people needed, superpowered accounting, basically. You can just picture them as these giant, clunky data crunchers built for huge tasks like the U.S. Census or figuring out complex military calculations during a war.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. There were two just massive breakthroughs that ripped computing out of those secret government labs and big corporate basements and put it right into our hands. We're talking about the two big ones, the personal computer and, you guessed it, the internet.
I mean, just look at this timeline. It's an incredible leap, right? We start in the 30s with a machine that weighed over 2,000 pounds. Then we get to the ENIAC, which filled an entire room. But then, whoosh, the revolution just hits the accelerator. By the time we get to the 70s, you've got the Kenback 1 and the Apple I, and the whole idea of what a computer is just gets turned on its head. It wasn't a building anymore. It was becoming something you could actually have on your desk.
So at the exact same time the personal computer is starting to take shape, there's this other revolution quietly brewing in the background. See, the US military had a problem. They needed a way to communicate that couldn't be wiped out by a single attack. And their solution? It was absolutely brilliant. It was called packet switching. Instead of sending information down one single vulnerable line, they figured out how to chop it up into tiny little pieces, or packets, send them along whatever path was open, and then put them all back together at the end. That one idea, that was the seed that grew into the entire internet.
Okay, so this is a really key point. ARPANET, that built the highway. That's the internet itself, the actual network. But it was the World Wide Web that gave us the cars to drive on it and the road signs to know where we're going. Things like HTML, that's the language used to build the websites. URLs, those are the unique addresses for every page. And then web browsers, like Mosaic, gave us a simple graphical way to just surf the web. It took it from a tool for scientists to something for, everyone.
Think about this for a second. The ENIAC was a total marvel, right? And it could do 5,000 calculations a second. That's incredible. But your phone, the one in your pocket, it does billions. A military machine that took up an entire room has now become this little personal gadget that connects you to, everything and everyone. The scale of that progress it's just mind-blowing. But here's the thing. The personal computer and the internet, they weren't the end of the story. Not even close. They were the foundation. They were what made the next two massive forces possible. The very things that define our world today. The cloud and, of course, artificial intelligence. We all hear the word cloud thrown around constantly, but what is it, really? Well, it's actually pretty simple. Instead of keeping all your stuff, your files, your programs, on your own computer's hard drive, the cloud just means you're using a huge network of powerful servers on the internet. The easiest way to think about it is like a giant shared hard drive that lives up in the sky. That's where your photos, your documents, your Netflix shows, all that stuff lives. And you can get to it from any device, anywhere, as long as you're online.
And what about AI? Artificial intelligence sounds so, futuristic and complex. But what's really fascinating is how it actually works day to day. A lot of what we call AI is really machine learning. It's just a system getting smart by looking at data. So when you're shopping online, for example, the website's algorithm is just watching what you click, what you look at. It's learning your patterns. And then it makes a really good guess, that's the output, about what other stuff you might be interested in. That's it. It's basically just pattern recognition, but on a totally massive scale.
Okay, so of course, putting our whole lives online, it's opened up all these incredible doors. But it's also created a whole new set of problems, right? New vulnerabilities. We've all basically become digital citizens now, and that comes with a brand new responsibility for every single one of us. You gotta know how to stay safe out there.
So let's just ask the question straight up. With so much of your life, your personal stuff, your work stuff, being stored and shared all over the internet, what are the basic, essential things you can actually do to protect yourself?
First things first, you've got to know what you're up against. And these are the big ones you'll see all the time. You've got phishing, those fake emails trying to trick you into giving up your password. You've got ransomware, which is nasty software that locks up all your files and demands money. And then there's just general malware, which is designed to mess up your computer or steal your info. Just knowing these exist, that's step one. Awareness is always your first line of defense.
But here's the good news. A little bit of basic digital security, just some good habits, makes a huge difference. So think of this as your essential toolkit, right? Strong, unique passwords for everything. That's your front door lock. Always looking for that HTTPS in the website address. The S stands for secure. That means your connection is safe. And using multi-factor authentication, that's like adding a deadbolt. Seriously, these aren't just suggestions. They're the absolute fundamentals to keep yourself safe online.
So, okay, we've just done this whirlwind tour, from giant calculators all the way to the cloud. So where does that leave us? Where are we headed next? Well, the only thing we know for sure is that the speed of change is only getting faster.
And if you want just one stat to really wrap your head around the insane speed of our world, this is the one. To get to 50 million users, it took the radio 38 years. The game Angry Birds, it took 35 days. Let that sink in. It's not just that the tech itself is getting faster, it's that we are adopting it at a speed that's it's pure hyperdrive.
So what does all this mean for us, for our jobs? I know the big fear is always, is a robot going to take my job? But the reality is looking more like augmentation, not replacement. Technology is getting really good at the boring, repetitive stuff. And that actually frees us up to do what we humans are amazing at, thinking critically, creatively solving problems, and coming up with new ideas that a machine just can't. The future probably isn't us against AI, it's us with it.
And that, right there, brings us to maybe the single most important takeaway from all of this. We know technology's power is basically doubling every couple of years. So trying to become an expert on today's hot new app or gadget, that's a losing game, because it'll be old news tomorrow. The only skill that's really future-proof is the willingness to learn, the ability to adapt again and again. So the real question for every one of us isn't just what's coming next. It's, am I ready to change and grow with